Today is maintenance day, changing the oil air filter on the bike, and to be honest with you, it's cheaper getting your air filter from the Victory Shop. The Polaris air filter only costs $22 versus the air filter at Advanced Auto Parts and AutoZone, which would have been $53. So something to think about. So just finished changing one side of the brakes on the caliper, and now it's time to move on to the other side and change the other side. This is for the Brembo brakes. Alright, I've already started taking the brake pads off. If you notice, there's two pins you have to take off. There's one at the bottom right here that I've already taken off. This pin right here. And also it has like these little cotter pins that actually come out. Let's see, get a better shot. Yeah, these holes are where you have to pull these little pins out. Anyway, so these have to come out. I use needle nose pliers to actually just kind of wiggle them out. These are the pins that are actually inside those holes that I was talking about earlier. So, you know, you remove these first. Move these first, and then it allows you to actually pull this straight out with your pliers. Once that is off, you just pull this clamp off, which kind of, I hope my hand's not in the way, that comes off, and you want to actually always lay stuff down the same way that I pull it off, so I know to put it back on. And you'll see your brake pads are right in there, and they just actually lift out. You just pull these babies right on out. Okay, so now I got the brake pads out. The next thing I got to do is push the pistons back in, so it'll be easier to install. I got to give a special shout out to Witchdoctors, because they actually have a lot of video tutorials on how to change your front and rear pads for Victory Hammer. Unfortunately, they only had an 08, and mine is a 05. So with the 05, you do have to get these, your pins are, this is held in by your, by these little pins right here. And this is actually the brake pads I'm replacing it with. I got this at Cycle World. You may be able to get them a little cheaper, but these are the pads I got. Only $44.99. Cycle Gear. This is where I got my pads from. You might be able to get them a little cheaper. But anywho, like I said, instead of actually taking the whole caliper off, you don't have to do that. Like I said, all you have to do is pull these pins out, and you should be good to go. And next thing we'll do is push these calipers back in, and we'll get started with that with a screwdriver. So what I'm doing now, I just push the calipers back lightly against the rotor, push them back in with my screwdriver, because if you don't do this, it'll be harder to get your brakes back in. Says the Witchdoctors, another shout out going to them. So got them pretty much pushed in on both sides. As you can tell, I don't know if you can see them, they're pushed back in on, trying to get a clear picture. But anyway, I think that's about as good as it's going to get. Sorry about the, like I said, but you make sure those are pushed back in. And yeah, I think that's a better shot. Once those are pushed back in, you can start putting the brake pads in. And then once we get this side done, we got another side, because the 05 Victory Hammer has Brembo brakes on both sides. Joy! So we'll put these brakes in, and then we'll go to the other side. The next part is pretty simple. All you're doing is taking this pin and pushing it back in. You want to make sure that your brake pads are lined up with these holes for it to go in, so you kind of pull them forward a little bit and make sure it lines up, so when you slide this in, you just twist it in, goes straight in like that. And the last thing you got to do is take this little screw right here and find that hole that's actually in this pin. I'm at the wrong one, I'm sorry. That's at this pin, and you kind of turn it, and then you probably have to tilt it to the side, and then you kind of feel around, and you'll feel where to actually put this little pin. I'm trying to get it back in focus. Where's the pin at? There we go. To get this little pin back inside. And that's the last thing you got to do, besides, of course, push your brakes in. But I got to do the other side. So anyway, Time to flip this baby around so I can get this pin that's in there. And I wish I can show you. Put my flashlight in here. There's a hole, and I don't know if you guys can see it. Yeah, there's a hole right there on top, and that's where that clip goes in right there. All right. Find that little hole. All you can do is push it right on in there, and use your screwdriver or punch or whatever you got, and just kind of push it in there until it gets down in there pretty good. And then we'll go to the other side. I know I don't have it in there deep enough, but I'll get it. I'm trying to hold my phone and do this at the same time, so I'll come back to it once I got it in. Once you finish with your needle nose, you get your regular pliers. You grab this bolt and you just wiggle it on out, and there it is. So that's one bolt out. Put it right next down to the pin so you don't lose it. And you do the same thing. Put this one right here, and you turn it until you see that little pin head. That's the best way I can tell you to do it, because I've fought with it. And then once you see the little head of that pin, I know you can't see it, hopefully you do. Grab your pliers, your needle nose, latch onto that baby, and it pulls right out. Place it back down on the floor. Grab your pliers, grab that, wiggle it, and you see how it pulls right out. And that fell off, but it's okay. And your brake pads are on the inside. All you got to do, pull these babies out. Got the brake pads out on this side. The other side was easier, but I had to push these seals in. They were actually holding them in. So I still got to, see right now they're sticking out, so I'm just going to take my screwdriver and push them back in gently. And then we'll start on putting the other brake pads in. But this is how these babies were kind of bad. They're kind of low if you look at that. So yeah, it's past time. I know I'm embarrassed, but it wasn't grinding, so but it was whistling a little bit. So yeah, definitely needed replacing. Alright, I want to tell you a problem I ran into when pushing these calipers back. I got one brake in, as you can see, but when I was pushing this one back right here, this one starts popping out. So what I had to do, I lodged a pair of my, I hope you can see this. I lodged a pair of my pliers. Where am I? Yeah. I had to lodge a pair of pliers in here and then put a screwdriver at the top up here and try to push these calipers back in. I don't know if you're going to run into that problem, and I had to take the pliers and push in right here, and had a screwdriver on top of these and push this caliper up here back in, but that worked for me. But as I was, like I said, as I was pushing this one in, this one was popping out, so I had to lodge my needle nose right here and then put my screwdriver right here and kind of push them back in at the same time. So hopefully you won't have that problem. Alright, now that we got both those brake pads on, last thing you got to do is come up and squeeze your brake handle, or you will not have any stopping power at all. So you want to grab your front brakes and just keep working them and squeeze them. And what you're doing is squeezing those calipers back in place. And you want to keep squeezing them, and you want to make sure you do this, or you will not have any front brakes at all. So once again, big shout out to Witch Doctors, because they pretty much got me in the area of how to do this. Although they were working on a 2008 Victory. Mine is a 05, so you have these pins versus actually taking a screw out of the actual brake caliper down here. So anywho, once again, shout out to Witch Doctors for your help. Took me about an hour, probably take you less because it's my first time doing it. But brake job is done, oil change is done, and I'm done for the day.